What's good people? This is Don't Believe the Hype, Week 3 NFL season, Episode 2. I'm Mark. I'm Maurice. We got Marcus.
What's going on? What's going on?
Cuz? All right. So again, this is the good, the bad, the ugly of fantasy sports. And so we're going to get right into it. Week 2, big week. Marcus, who lived up to the hype for you?
Michael Crabtree. 6 targets, 6 catches, 3 touchdowns, 2 difficult touchdowns, and 1 easy touchdown against a horrible Jets secondary. He did whatever he wanted. J.J. Nelson, waiver pickup, 5 catches, I believe, for $120 and a score. Kareem Hunt, they just kept trying to find ways to get him yards, and finally he broke through in the third quarter and was able to put the Eagles away with his 2 scores. Also, who else? The Ravens defense. I know it's the Browns, but still, I mean, you got to show up and show out, and they did. And also Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay showed up, and what was a personal game for them against their former backup, Mike Glennon. And they were able to basically shut him down, and they got a pick 6 off of him, a couple sacks, and a couple interceptions. So those are my teams and my individual players that actually showed up for me. How about you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Defense has definitely stepped up. Tampa Bay, Mike Glennon, you saw him before the game, giving everyone hugs and pounds, and then he was just giving out gifts during the game. So, but again, it's not all his fault. The Bears are just a really bad team this year. Players that
I don't even count Tom Brady. I'm not even going to count Tom Brady because I just knew he was due for a bounce back. So it was to be expected that he would go off and throw for almost 500 yards with ease against a horrible Saints defense.
Yeah, he carved them up, man. He was taking numbers. It was like Sam the Butcher, number 6. Again, 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, which I was actually surprised that was the first time he had ever did that. With as many prolific records as he holds, I was kind of shocked that was the first time he did that. But 2 guys that I actually like, wide receivers, Jermaine Kearse, who again he's kind of become the default number 1 down in for the New York Jets, and Rashad Higgins. And he's pretty. You would have thought he was pretty buried on the depth chart with Kenny Britt, who they gave a ton of money to this offseason, and also Corey Coleman, who was supposed to step up in year 2, but with the injury to Corey Coleman and with Kenny Britt stealing money, Rashad Higgins has a good chance to be the default wide receiver 1 for the team.
Right. And, I mean, his track record at Colorado State would definitely suggest that he's due for, a productive season, a productive rookie season. Not saying, he's going to go off and have that OBJ type of rookie year, but in an offense such as Cleveland, they really don't have anybody that can step up from the wide receiver level. And if you look at his college tape, he was solid. He was extremely solid for Colorado State. So he should step right in if given the opportunity.
Okay. All right. So, we know who lived up to the hype. Who didn't live up to the hype?
The entire New York Giants offense for a second straight week. Look, I know Odell came back from his ankle injury, and he played a limited amount of snaps, but there's no excuse for that offensive line not keeping Eli upright. I mean, it got to a point where he would just hear footsteps and would just fall. I mean, the left tackle Flowers from the Giants was just getting destroyed by Ziggy Ansah. Pretty much did whatever he wanted to do, and Eli didn't even have time. I mean, he's got Brandon Marshall, he's got Sterling Shepard, he has Odell. He has a pass-catching tight end, Evan Ingram. Why can't you move the ball down the field? And it boils down to his offensive line. And then when he does have time, you have Brandon Marshall dropping passes. So the unit as a whole for the second straight week let me down. Cincinnati continues to let me down. Andy Dalton, I'm not sure what's going on with him. He's totally regressed. Le'Veon Bell let me down again. I know he's still trying to get used to the terminology in Pittsburgh, and he's still trying to get in game shape. But still, I mean, hey, come on, man. You got to get the program eventually. You got to go off at some point. So those are my guys. I know as I think of more, I'll probably get more and more pissed off. So
right.
I could stop right there, and I will stop right there. So
Okay.
how about you?
All right. Well, Ezekiel Elliott, he turned in a very piss poor performance against Denver. I actually played him in on DraftKings. And DraftKings. I didn't play him in FanDuel. I did play him in DraftKings, even though his price was high. But again, compared to some of the RB1s, you know, it was a nice price. And then same with Denver did the week before. The thing is, when you look at Denver's defense, you look at it as a whole, and you think, oh, they have a great defense. They have a great secondary. And that front four, and even that front seven, again, Von Miller's a pass rusher. They give up yards, and they give the yards up in gashes. So I figured, hey, Ezekiel Elliott, 100 yards, 1 touchdown shouldn't be a problem. So I don't know if the defense was better than advertised, or if maybe he's just preparing for his suspension. But either way, he was horrible. He honestly, he didn't even when Dak threw the interceptions, he didn't even go after the defender.
To run down the field.
Right.
I mean,
right. And and that right there, that hustle, that carries over, and he just didn't have it. It wasn't in him. I don't know why, but it wasn't. Also, Brandon Cooks. I told you last week about the narrative. I mean, Sam the Butcher was cutting meat. I mean, he was like at Fogo de Chao, man. He was coming over there cutting meat. And I knew for sure. I said, okay, Brandon Cooks, he coming back home, 2 touchdowns, no Edelman, and man, he got
it
cooked.
Seemed like everyone got one but him. I mean, Rex Burkhead got one.
Exactly. Even Philip Dorsett was looking good. I mean, I forgot. Like, he must have had his Hurricane jersey underneath, because he came to life. And that's just the Tom Brady effect. That's what Tom Brady does to an offense. You can say what you want. It's not a system. Tom Brady does that. Tom Brady is an elite quarterback. But I don't know if it's just going to take some time for him to build that chemistry. But what I do notice is that, look at it when new receivers come into that team. Especially established receivers like Chad Ochocinco. He came in and he never was able to get up to speed. Randy Moss is just an exception. Randy Moss was able to he was able to immediately. Who else did they have? Even Hogan. It took Hogan some time last year to get up to speed. Amendola came in. He was supposed to replace Wes Welker. He got injured, so he never was able to do it. So again, it takes time. Once you get comfortable in that offense, I mean, it becomes second nature. So I don't think Brandon Cooks is done, but he was definitely cooked last week, and I'm just, I was a little disappointed. One more team. I know you mentioned the Cowboys and the Bengals offense. The Cardinals running backs, man. That offense is a mess, but even the running backs, even more, man. Kerwin Williams, Chris Johnson, Andre Ellington. I mean,
they did nothing.
Right. I mean, they could put Emmitt Smith back there when he, put his jersey back on. I mean, it's not going to matter.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be Larry Centers. It doesn't matter. It's going to be ugly.
And quite honestly, I think the problem is Carson Palmer. I mean, watching that game on Red Zone, because that was my pick last week. I told the masses out there that if you have any Cardinals on your fantasy teams, to go ahead and play them. If you have money to put into FanDuel, you load up on the Cardinals. And outside of J.J. Nelson, I mean, Carson Palmer, I'm not sure if he still is worried about people grabbing at his legs or what, but it seems like he doesn't step into a throw anymore. He's throwing wobbly ducks. I'm not sure, but the fact that you just can't even locate a target at times unless it's a deep ball. It's kind of alarming. And I mean, he still got you fantasy points, but he was nowhere near the projection of what I expected him to do against that secondary. I mean, Jared Goff in week 1 had went off for 300 yards against them, and it seemed like Carson Palmer struggled all day outside of J.J. Nelson to move them down the field.
Okay. Agreed. And if anyone listened to Marcus last week, we're going to put his email address at the bottom so you can send him. He will be refunding FanDuel deposits.
Please send all hate mail. Please send all hate mail to Fan Sports Box.
Right. But before we get off this topic, as I mentioned the Cardinals, I have to mention this. One of my leagues, man, I'm actually kind of struggling at the running back position because I went very heavy at wide receiver. I had Mike Thomas, AJ Green, Doug Baldwin, Jarvis Landry, and then I also picked up J.J. Nelson. So I put some feelers out there because I'm looking to make a trade for a running back. So someone had the audacity to send me a trade offer. I got 2. I don't know which trade was worse. Kerwin Williams for AJ Green. AJ Green.
How quick did you hit the cancel reject button?
Immediately. As a matter of fact, after I sent that, I then sent them a text message to say, see, this is why I don't send you trade offers.
Don't call me, I'll call you.
Right. Good day, sir. Good day.
I said good day.
Right. I just wanted to share that with everyone just because, we get dumb trade offers too. So, but also
they'll try you. Don't get it
right.
They won't try you.
Right, but come on now. Look, I mean, if I take that trade, then I should be looking to buy swampland next week. I mean, come on. But week 2, there were some injuries, man. I mean, we had a couple of scares. Jordan Reed. Actually, there were quite a few tight ends, as far as with the scares and the injuries. Gronk, Jordan Reed with his weekly ailments. But the biggest surprise was Greg Olsen, who's been a very durable, reliable tight end for the Panthers.
Right.
So what does his injury mean to that team, to Cam Newton, and what does that do to the team?
For Cam, it makes them even more of a one-dimensional offense as to when he drops back to pass, who he's looking for. At least he could kind of look out Greg Olsen and, try to see if Benjamin is open and just throw it up. I mean, Benjamin is so tall that sometimes you don't even have to wait till he's open. You just throw it up there and hope he high points the ball at times. And vice versa. You may look for Benjamin as your first progression and then you move on to Greg Olsen. But now basically it's Calvin Benjamin and Christian McCaffrey in the pass game. Cam, we seen him struggle last week, especially when Greg Olsen went out. If it wasn't for the ball bouncing off of Zay Jones' hands from Buffalo, it could very well be a different story, but it was a battle of the field goals down in Charlotte. So they do have a interesting matchup against the Saints. There's really no need for them to panic this week from the passing game standpoint. And that's just because we can pick on the Saints secondary all we want, honestly, as, fantasy guys at this point until they prove otherwise. But for Cam, I mean, luckily he can run, and he's still trying to get his shoulder in shape, as far as, throwing down the field and things of that nature. But for this week, they'll be fine. But moving on against a tougher secondary, maybe the Atlantas, the Tampa Bays, in their division, it'll definitely be a tough road for them. But they'll be fine this week, though.
Okay. So if you were one of the owners that lost a tight end, which tight end would you be targeting to pick up?
Well, honestly, you still have, in some leagues, I know in my league, I dropped Hunter Henry. And that's just because it's hard to figure out whether Henry or Antonio Gates is going to go off. And I've seen that in different leagues as well. I've also seen that on different fantasy pages where it's kind of hard to predict which one of those tight ends will go off. Although, I mean, you can't go wrong if you have Antonio Gates or Hunter Henry out there on waivers. You know, I mean, somebody's bound to catch a touchdown. So, you know, you just got to take that chance. They run 2 tight end sets, so, you know, it could be 50-50 at times. There might be a Cameron Brate out there from Tampa. I mean, even though they drafted O.J. Howard, he's still the number 1 guy down there. That's not Mike Evans, you know, from the tight end standpoint. I would even venture to say Ben Watson from the Ravens. Flacco is captain check down. And if it isn't a pass catching receiver, it could very well be either Max Williams or Ben Watson at times. And he had a pretty solid game against the Browns Sunday. You know, 7 to 8 catches, 80 yards, I believe. So, you know, those are some tight ends that I can think of as of this moment, you know, that should be out there in your leagues.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that too. I was kind of shocked that Ben Watson actually he still has some juice left, but I also if he's available, now I know he's in the concussion protocol if I'm not mistaken, but Evan Ingram, he actually was the best wide receiver, best receiver I would say, not wide receiver. He was actually the best pass catcher on the team last week.
Yeah,
and with Beckham, right, and with Beckham coming back, he'll have and also the fact that Manning likes to throw to the tight end, he'll have more lanes. You know, I was excited when Brandon Marshall signed with the Giants initially. Now I'm not. You know, but again, just there are plenty of weapons on that team, but I really kind of think that second spot is up for grabs between Shepard and Ingram. And Ingram, you know, they haven't had a tight end since Jeremy Shockey. I mean, you didn't know you've had Will Ty, but had a lot of tight end on that team. So, hey, you know, I think that's a good move for Giants fans. Any other pickups for last week that will be important for this week?
I believe if you still have, and I kind of doubt it at this point, but with the injury to Fat Rob in DC, Robert Kelly, either Samaje Perine, who was the bruiser in the backfield, or Chris Thompson, who is the quickness in the Redskins backfield. If they're out there, you know, I would give them a shot, especially if you're in a bind for a running back. Also, to me at this point, I begin to match up defenses. So I always will tell people out there who are watching, you know, if you check the schedule and you see a weak defense going against a strong offense, a weak offense going against a strong defense, and you have, you know, some teams that are out there on waiver wires that have some pretty good matchups from a defensive standpoint, you know, go ahead and pick them up and give them a start. I know in my league, we had the Buccaneers defense just sitting out there and nobody picked it up. And I was too worried about what the Rams did week 1. And I still held on to them against a solid Redskins offense. And I got burned. Whereas the Buccaneers had about 29, 30 fantasy points going up against the Bears. So that's why I always say never fully commit to your defense unless it's just a strong top 5 defense.
Yeah, I'm glad you
see the matchups.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And piggybacking off of that, you know, the defenses as well as kickers, those are definitely 2 positions that you can stream. If you're not fortunate enough to get one of those, like you said, elite defenses, top 5 defenses, because again, you don't want to draft them too early. And just because you see someone else drafting them, if that's not where you want to draft your defense or your kicker, don't do it, because that'll throw off the rest of your draft. So
exactly.
If you can't get who you want, just wait. Like Marcus said, go ahead and stream a defense, stream a kicker, and you play the matchups, because trust me, every week there's a top scoring defense and top scoring kicker on the free agent list.
Sitting out there. Exactly. Also, from the wide receiver standpoint, Allen Hurns from Jacksonville, with Allen Robinson going out, he caught a touchdown last week. And even though Jacksonville looked horrible offensively against the Titans, he was the lone guy who had a solid fantasy day. So if he's still out there, he is Blake Bortles' number one when he does drop back and throw the ball to someone that is actually on his team and not the defensive secondary.
Right. Yeah, as scary as that sounds. Yeah, Blake Bortles number one. Oh, Chris Carson too, from the Seahawks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If he's there, Eddie Lacy, he's not going to do it. Thomas Ross, he gets hurt too often. CJ Prosise, he's more of a change of pace back. If Chris Carson is on your wire, on the waiver wire, pick him up and just hold on to him for a couple of weeks. He'll probably be the starter pretty soon.
Yeah. Also, monitor the Packers wide receiver situation. Jordy Nelson left the Sunday night game with an injury. Randall Cobb got hurt during the game. He left the game with an injury. So outside of Devontae Adams, you have Jeff Janis, you have Geronimo Allison. So you have some wide receivers there outside of Devontae Adams because he probably, if he's not already on your team, he's on someone's team because he's the de facto number one at this point. But you have some other guys who have played in the Aaron Rodgers system last year who were productive. So go ahead and give those guys a shot too. I mean, there's passes for everyone in that offense.
Agreed. Good stuff, Marcus. All right, so now what we've all been waiting for. Week 3.
Yes.
All right, so again, who are you hyping up? I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off, man.
Please do.
I am actually feeling one of your guys, man. Oakland Raiders, Derek Carr.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. It's about time we get our respect. Appreciate it.
Raider Nation, stand up. And I like them again first. So I like 2 quarterbacks. I like Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
I'm forcing myself to like Andy Dalton. Now I like Derek Carr.
Good luck with that one, sir.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Derek Carr. Right. But he's got a good matchup against Washington. And then the thing is, it has the potential to be a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you have a game that's a potential to be a shootout, you want to target one of those quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also want to, if you can, play both sides. So let's say if I do go with Derek Carr, I'm going to stack him with probably Michael Crabtree, unless I get a feeling about, Cooper just based off of looking at the matchups. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play a Washington Redskin receiver. Honestly, I want to play Terrell Pryor. If I do that, Terrell Pryor is a bigger receiver. Also, he's a former Raider. So, I mean, again, that's not really right. It's not really a true narrative because, again, he was a quarterback there, and and they also they're not playing at Oakland. But again, just having that ping pong matchup, I'm interested in. But the reason I said Andy Dalton is, again, back to what I mentioned, playing the match. I like to pick a quarterback that's going to go against a gunslinger.
Right.
And so in this case, Andy Dalton is going against, discount double check Aaron Rodgers. So, the good thing about that is, the Packers are going to put up some points.
Right.
I'm interested in Andy Dalton because 2 reasons. One, no one's going to play him. I don't even think Andy Dalton would even play himself, But on paper, again, they have a good offense. They also they fired the offensive coordinator. So the offense is going to look different than it did the first 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to look better, but again, it can't look any worse than it did the last 2 weeks. So,
exactly.
So I'm gonna I might, if I do 2 lineups, I'll do Dalton with AJ Green because Tyler Eifert's banged up, and then I'll go ahead and pick someone from the Packers, maybe Ty Montgomery, and then I'll play those 2 matchups against each other. All right, so who are you hyping up?
You stole my thunder with the Raiders, but because I just feel like their secondary is so aggressive and it's beatable, and I just think the Raiders are just clicking right now. I mean, from the running back standpoint, from the wide receiver standpoint, I mean, Jared Cook hasn't gone off yet. I mean, he's a solid, a stable tight end that they've been missing for so long now. And he definitely will get overlooked. I mean, Crabtree and Cooper are just as solid as they found. So I could easily say Atlanta, but I'm more intrigued by Tennessee going against Seattle.
Really?
Because Seattle's solid, but Seattle at times will have that game in which there's a team that shouldn't stick with them, but somehow it's a close game. I seen it years back with San Diego. Phillip Rivers carved them up. And I just feel like the offense that Tennessee runs is up tempo. Has college elements to it. They have 2 physical running backs. They have solid wideouts, and they have a good tight end and Delaney Walker, and they have a mobile quarterback. So when things get rough, Mariota can get out of there and run. So, I love being contrarian. I love being different. That being different is how you win in these DFS leagues. So, I'm going to go Tennessee. So I'm going to go Mariota with a little bit of DeMarco with some Rashard Matthews. Now, see, the wide receivers from the Titans, it's no clear-cut number 1. So anybody can go off on any given day. It could be Corey Davis. It could be Rashard Matthews. Decker could be having one of his days where he's just a possession guy. He can go ahead and get his catches. And Delaney Walker, too. So, as a whole, I'm going to say Tennessee. Now, at that point, it gets a little iffy.
Okay. So is this kind of like the Cardinals last week, or is this different than the Cardinals last week?
It's different because, look, I just felt like the Colts defense is just awful, but they just made Carson Palmer they just gave him a horrible run for his money that day. He had a horrible day. He came alive in the 4th quarter when he needed to, and they got the win. I just personally feel like, Seattle's due for it. They're due for that game in which it's like, oh, wow, we didn't account for every single guy, every single offensive weapon Tennessee has. So I'm going to go Tennessee.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say this. If you are going to listen to Marcus this weekend, again, you're definitely entitled to. Just make sure you keep up with the injury report, because DeMarco Murray, who I believe will play, he is banged up, and Corey Davis is ruled out. So, like Marcus said, Rashard Matthews is definitely would be the pick to go. Rashard Matthews, Delaney Walker would be the pick to go with that. So running backs, aside from that, I know you mentioned DeMarco Murray, but aside from that game, are there any running backs that have caught your attention for week 3?
Just keep going back to the Kareem Hunt. Well, I mean, look, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Travis Kelce, it's Alex Smith, it's Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt has nobody competing with him in that backfield, and they keep feeding him the ball. So until otherwise, he's a must start every game at this point, just for the upside.
I can absolutely agree with that. At this point, you're right. He's a must start. I also like C.J. Anderson. Something is different with that Denver offense this year. And the first 2 weeks you've seen it. I mean, even Trevor Siemian is looking. I mean, he's got a little John Elway Ashton, back there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Right. I don't know what happened, but the play calling's different. So you're seeing a better offense, and you're seeing C.J. Anderson. You're seeing the C.J. Anderson that you were supposed to see. Yeah, because again, the year before that, he came on strong and offense, and he wasn't. So first games he showed he's up. He doesn't really have anyone behind him that could seriously steal any of those carries. So I like C.J. Anderson. I also like Kareem Hunt, like Marcus said. So if you pair both of those running backs together with Derek Carr and one of the Oakland wide receivers, you stand to be in pretty good shape for the week ahead.
Also,